Hey y'all, it's Two Brains, Three Eyes, and I'm back with another video. Before we get into it, you're gonna hear me talk about this case a lot more often throughout the week. I've had a pretty hectic schedule, so I didn't mean to post this video at the last minute, but this is when I actually had some time to. Video editing is a lot, and I don't think my fans, my viewers understand how much I put into these commentaries, and also with my TikTok page. So before I get into anything, I'm gonna give my condolences to Nolan's family at this point. You do the right thing as a parent, and he grew up in a two-parent household, right? Which most Black people, including myself, didn't have the privilege of experiencing, right? So you grew up in a home with, both parents who obviously did the right thing. They raised a Black man with manners. They taught him how to stay out of trouble. They kept him in extracurricular activities, involved in sports. They were very much involved in Nolan's life for the most part. And you try to do everything right as a parent just for something like this to happen.
The heartbreaking discovery made about 8:45 Monday morning when authorities say the Mississippi Community College wide receiver's suspected body was found in the water just off the shore. His mother writing, "His father, our family, friends, and I are absolutely devastated," describing Wells as a sweet son who was always willing to cheer and uplift others. Now, investigators say they suspect he drowned, but they're still interviewing friends who were with him as they work to pinpoint what exactly happened.
That's why we're still asking for information if anybody has anything, any knowledge.
So no parent deserves to experience burying their child before them, all right? But at this point, I wanted to kind of zoom out and look at things from a different perspective. I'm not going to make this about, his friends or so-called friends that he was with, but another side to the story that we don't talk about in the Black community. And that is certain types of Black people feel like they don't belong in the Black community. And what I mean by that is just because you don't want to smoke weed, just because, you don't want to go to the club every other night, just because you don't want to just lounge around, you actually want to do something with yourself and with your life, that kind of puts you as a target to other Black people. Like, oh, this person think they're better and whatnot. You guys know. But looking at Nolan's pictures, I can see that, most likely he probably cleaved to white people or non-Black people for the most part, because he felt like maybe he didn't have anything in common, right? Because think about it, I went to failing schools, and sometimes, people would make me feel bad, or I'm not Black enough because I don't listen to certain music, or I just don't want to partake in certain activities, right? And, going to a failing school, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But sometimes I felt like I didn't belong. For the most part, you just kind of feel like you don't fit in with the majority of Black people because they feel like you're not one of them because you don't want to do the same things that they do, or you're not interested in the things that they're interested in. And sometimes that can kind of push Black people who have more of an open mind other places, so they go where they're appreciated. But unfortunately, whenever you go somewhere that you're appreciated, or you think that you're being appreciated, it would be more so of a masked jealousy in a way. So that's all I thought of when I saw the pictures, because most of his pictures included him with, like white people from school, or, from playing sports. And I'm sure that Nolan did think that these were his friends, but you never know what kind of conversations that, you know, they're having with their parents at home when you're not there. And I'll be the first to say that you gotta have, especially in corporate America, you gotta have two faces, right? You wouldn't believe the conversations that white people have when they're not around black people. You would not believe the conversations or the things that they do to sabotage us at work, right? So altogether, I don't think it's safe for black people to mix with other white people, especially if they're the only white person. But I've noticed that these boat trips always turn into a missing persons case. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you may think that you know your best friend, but who did your best friend bring? Who did they come with? Right? Because that person that they came with is cool with your white friend, but how do they feel about you? And your white friend can't see it because he has a respect of persons. It is absolutely not safe for you to be the only black person in at a get together with a majority of white people attending. And there's so many stories like this, but we're just going to stick to this one. But I can understand why Nolan must have felt that he felt safe around white people, because that used to be me at one point. But now I'm aware, knowing my history and knowing the history of this country and how racism never disappeared. It's just hidden in different ways. But I can see how he would think that they're his friends. Because when you think that you have something in common with someone, or you share a likeness with someone, you start forming that bond with them. But me personally, a white person can never understand how a black person lives his everyday life. They can never understand. And someone said it best too, you know, they want our joy, they want our talent, but they don't want our blues. And unfortunately, this is what comes with being black in America. You're not safe in-house, black on black crime. And you're not safe with them either. So damn, where can we go? Where? For black people that have a diverse taste in life, you know, I like to go boating. I like to go hiking. I like listening to country music. I like corny movies, Monster-in-Law. I like looking at the sunset. I don't have to get drunk every day. I don't have to smoke every day. I don't have to have pointless sex every day. I don't want to talk about struggle every day. So where can we go? We're not safe anywhere. So at this point, it's safe to say that you have to feed. I'm not being rude when I say this, but when it comes to attending all white events, you got to tell your white friends, hey, listen, you know, I appreciate the offer, but you know what, at this point, you know, I'm not coming, you know, I got other plans. And you have to start feeding them with a long spoon. And you have to be aware. And you cannot forget how this country was built on racism. And yes, we have black on black crime, but it still doesn't dismiss what happened to him, which we will talk about on another video. But overall, the case is sad. You know, here you have this young black man that put his trust in white people. So let me know what you think about the whole situation. Like I said, condolences to his family during this time. And then I'll see you on the next video.